if you think you're moving, do contact your realtor first, because generally our services follow what the realtor suggests, right? So in terms of selling your home, so we're always talking to realtor, like, are we selling it with furniture in it, or do you want it cleared out? And then after that, when you start your downsizing, definitely consult with someone like myself who's experienced in what is, should you donate it? Should you sell it? Do you want to ship it?
Welcome to the Carolina Senior Talk Podcast, your trusted source for all things related to senior living in the Carolinas. In each episode, we'll guide you through the best locations, offer advice on buying a home, and share tips on relocating within this beautiful region. Whether you're exploring new senior communities, considering a move, or looking to invest in your current dream home, we've got you covered. So sit back, relax, and get ready to discover everything you need to know about senior living in the Carolinas. Well, hello there, folks. Welcome to another podcast called, interestingly enough, Carolina Senior Talk, carolinaseniortalk.com, where we discuss all things senior. And there's all kinds of issues when you approach my age or higher. And so one of those things we're going to drill down specifically relates to moving. This is something we all look forward to, is the task of moving. Purging, elimination. What are we going to keep? What we're not going to keep? Should we do estate sales or give it away? How do we get our arms around this and organize ourselves? Planning. How do you know what's going to fit in the new home? It may seem simple enough until you are faced with that proposition. Packing. Oh my gosh, we all love packing and unpacking, right? So toward this end, we actually have a service focused on this, and my special guest today is none other than Jennifer Noch with Bluestar Move Management. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, delighted to have you, because this is an issue that is paramount in every client that I've worked with, is just the daunting task of moving from A to B. And personally, we've done that several times in our lives. But before we get into that, tell us about yourself. Where do you live? And where are you
So
from
I'm here in
originally?
Charlotte
You're
now.
in
So I'm
Charlotte.
here in Charlotte on the west side, between Uptown and the airport.
Yep.
I've been on this side of town probably for about 10 years, in a house built in 1940, right?
Oh,
A
awesome.
small house.
So
Yep.
character.
Yes, character. That's exactly right. Lots of character. I know, I actually love my little house. But I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio. So
How
I've
are
been
you?
down here. I went to Winthrop University 92 to 96, and that's what brought me down here. Played softball at Winthrop University. So I came down here to do that, and then graduated in 96 with a degree in biology. I actually worked at Discovery Place right out of college, as a presenter. Like, I used to do the physical sciences there for the schools or the general public, right? But then got married and started a family. And so I was a stay-at-home mom for about 6 or 7 years after that. And then fast forward into the future, here I am as a move manager for about the past 6 years.
Well, as you are probably aware, goodness knows, we have a lot of Buckeyes in Charlotte. There's a
A
lot
lot
of
of
people moving
Buckeyes.
from Ohio here.
Mhm.
So if somebody were moving and you were
Yes.
on the phone and they're thinking about moving to Charlotte, specifically West Charlotte, what restaurant would you point them towards? What's
Noble
your favorite?
Smoke on Freedom Drive.
One more
Um,
time?
Noble Smoke on
Noble
Freedom
Smoke.
Drive. Noble
Okay.
Smoke.
I am writing that
It's
down. I have
it's
not been there.
You've been there,
I
right?
have not been there.
You've not been there.
No.
So there used to be the restaurant in South Park, Nobles.
Yes, 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 yes. Yeah, in
Yes.
fact, I was a famous chef in the area.
And so that's him. So
Yeah.
this is his place on Freedom Drive.
Oh, man.
And it's all barbecue. Delicious.
Mm.
It's delicious barbecue. And then he also has Bossy Beulah's right next to it. If you've ever been to Bossy Beulah's, it's chicken sandwiches, fried chicken
No.
sandwiches.
Mm-mm.
Delicious. So that's here on the west side of town. And then, of course, there's Pinky's. I don't know if you've ever been to Pinky's
Oh,
West
yeah.
Side Grill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those
I
are
tell you,
kind of, and then there's Rhino Deli. So if you want a good lunch,
have you been
Rhino
to
Deli.
a place called Lulu's? Lulu's, now why it's special to me is I'm from Maryland, and of course, blue crabs, crab
Mhm.
cakes, things of that nature are special to us.
Yes.
And the owner of Lulu's is from Maryland as well, and he makes an authentic blue crab cake. It is amazing. So
Yes. I've been there too. And
have
it
you?
is.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
I
Good
sure
deal.
have.
Well, I will write these things down and guess where we're going. We're going to do some barbecue. So, but before we can continue, we have to throw you or make you go through the gauntlet, as we
Okay.
call it. This is a pass fail. If you fail, this is going to be a very short podcast. But if you succeed, which you will, question is trivia questions related to boomers. And I'm going to give you the categories, and you get to pick the category. I'll pick the question. Pop culture, television, music, movies, cars, news, sports. Those are the categories. What would you like to pick?
Me?
You.
Music.
Oh, she's going in music, page 85. All right, drum roll.
Dun. Let's see how we do. Just so everybody knows, and I'm not afraid to say, I was born in 1974. We were just talking about this, like music, music was what your parents listened to for the longest time, right? Until you found music yourself and started getting into your own music.
I'm going to give you an easy one. This is a layup. This is a
Okay.
layup. What Eagles song starts with the lyrics on a dark desert highway, cool wind in my hair? A, The Long Run. B, One of These Nights. C, Take It to the Limit. And D, Hotel California.
D, Hotel California.
Ding, 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 ding. See? There you
That
go.
was an easy one. That was an easy one.
All right, let's see if I can find a more challenging one.
Do a little more time. I'm just curious. And then, yeah.
Oh, okay. This is one up my alley. A little bit before your time. What is the opening track on 1969's Let It Bleed album by the Rolling Stones? A, Let It Bleed. B, Midnight Rambler. C, Gimme Shelter. D, You Can't Always Get What You Want.
Give me shelter.
Gimme Shelter. Oh my gosh, you did well. Ding, ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding.
All right, we'll let you through.
I love that song, actually.
That is one of the all-time best albums. Just amazing hits that came out for that album. All right, so let's get into it. In a nutshell, tell me about Bluestar Move Management. What do you guys do? What do you offer?
So we are a full service move management company, and a lot of people don't really know about move management. Generally, when I tell people what I do, they say, well, what do you mean exactly? And then put it in a nutshell, we help people move in whatever stage of moving they're in, right? So it can be anybody. But of course, for this conversation today, it really does drill down to those who are leaving their big homes, right? And they're making the decision to scale down and have they have to figure out what they want to keep with them and what will exactly fit in their new home. And then they have to figure out what to do with all the rest of it. And it's usually in this conversation, it's all the content and belongings that are left over that need to find a new home that give people the most stress, right? So our services are all built around relieving that stress, whether we come in and help you get the house ready for listing, right? So in your world, Dave, like listing photos and getting the house ready for the walkthroughs.
Staging.
Yep. So whether that's the client's going to be in the home while you're selling it, or maybe just clearing out the home and you're going to sell it empty, right? So we can help in both fashions there. And then, of course, finding new homes for everything. We do estate sales, which we can dive into a little later, but we do estate sales to try to monetize if there's a lot left over. We do consignment sales. So if there's not enough left over, we could just consign it in a different estate sale. And then, of course, we have donation partners and disposal partners. So we just figure out a way. We're like an adoption agency for everything that's left over. That's what we like to call it. But then, of course, when you're ready to move, we can help you pack. The mover piece is the piece that we don't do. But if I'm working with you, I help you find the mover and line out that project for you, right? And manage it.
I can imagine you have some highly trusted moving companies that you work with.
Yes.
Yeah.
And those are, and just to say, I lean heavily towards Gentle Giant. They're a fantastic mover.
We have used them.
Yep. There's Rain Movers. Now, Rain Movers is more South Charlotte. And then there's JD Johnson Movers, who's like Mooresville area. But it just depends on the circumstance. But I have different movers. And of course, if you have a mover, if the client has a mover they've used before, I just incorporate them.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had a very good experience. I can't speak to the other two, but your testimony is valuable. But we used Gentle Giant when we moved into the current home we're in now, and
Mhm.
and we were delayed in construction, so their cooperation, they were so friendly and easy to work with. It was just a delight, so I
Yep.
can't say
They're
enough
great.
good things about them.
Great.
Um, so here's the issue that I've had. And I've been doing real estate for 22 years, and I've had a lot of people who are downsizing in the process. The one common thread we often think about moving in its physical nature, the packing and unpacking and the putting on trucks and the furniture and so forth and so on. But what I found challenging is the common thread is the emotions that are involved, because it's possessions that have memories, and
Mhm.
now you've got to make decisions on that. How in the world do you guys tackle that? It's a challenge for everybody because
Mhm.
everything you've got has a memory.
Yes. So really, because it is a challenge, you have to build process and be a little more strategic about it,
Mm,
right? Sometimes.
mm-hmm,
So usually what I always like to do is if the client knows where they're going, like what their new home's going to be, and if they have a floor plan for that, I always like to start with the space plan. So what I do is I take that
interesting.
floor plan, we upload it to our digital program, and then I come to your home for it's usually a 2-hour complimentary consultation where we'll sit down first. I get an idea of your goals, what you're trying to accomplish. And then we walk the house. I'll measure the furniture that they'd like to take, right? Measuring just the width and the depth back to the wall, and maybe the height if I think height's going to play into the move.
Mm-hmm,
Um, and then we sit back at the table and we implement putting that furniture into the space plan and moving around and making sure what furniture is going to fit first.
mm-hmm,
And there's a couple reasons why I like doing this. Definitely in a downsize situation, it helps you to compartmentalize what I can keep and what's not going to go, right? So it really helps you do that for yourself. Then you can start making a plan both ways, right? But that's usually the first thing that I do is a space plan. The second thing that the space plan helps with is it makes the movers more efficient on the move in, right? So when the movers are moving the furniture in, they reference that space plan. So they're not asking you every 2 minutes, where do you want to put this? Where do you want to put this? Right? They know exactly where to put it because they're on a timed situation too. So it just makes them more efficient.
that's amazing. I've gone through 4 moves, I guess, in my life, and it's just not many compared to a lot of the people I've worked with.
Yep.
But each one was an endeavor. Being organized is so important. But
Yeah.
on the sales side, on my side as a
Mhm.
realtor, oh my gosh, those emotions really come into play, and I can see where the planning, the forethought really
Yeah.
helps negate some of those concerns and some of those issues.
Well, I'll dive in just a little more if that's okay.
Sure.
Kind of take that a little bit further. So when I say that your space plan is a blueprint, this is why I mean that, right? So once you have your space plan, the space plan will dictate the furniture pieces that you're taking with you, right? I can take my china hutch, I can take my console table, I'm going to have this under the table, or I'm going to mount my TV, right?
Hmm.
You figure all that out. So that helps you figure out the furniture because then the furniture tells you what kind of storage you have within it and what kind of surface area you have for your decor. Okay. So then what I usually tell people is, all right, when you start going through your downsizing process, because downsizing is a very broad term, it's very broad, right? Downsizing. Well, what does that mean? So what I tell people is when you start going through the house, you're going to take your space plan and you start with the furniture that made the space plan, right? And so let's just say, for example, your china hutch made the space plan. It's going to go to the new home. So you start there and you go into it. And what you should do is first be looking at that and thinking, what in this space do I not need? And pull anything you don't need out of there, right? And set it somewhere else. And then once you've done that with each piece of furniture and you've downsized the furniture pieces, right? Then you go to the areas that are not replicated. For example, a third closet, or let's say the china hutch doesn't make the space plan. Okay, let's just say the china hutch isn't in the space plan, but there's something in there you want. So if it's not in the space plan, you're going to that piece now. What you're focusing on is what do I want to keep out of here? So now you're focusing on what am I keeping, right? And then what you have to ask yourself is, well, it used to live in the China hutch, but I don't have that going to the new home. So if I want to keep this, where is it going to live now? Right? That's just kind of the thinking. Where is it going to live now? So you kind of do that with each piece of furniture. When you start getting into the kitchen area, you take a look at how many cabinets do you have in your uppers, how many cabinets lower, how many sets of drawers, count those, and then you
Wow.
replicate it in your kitchen,
Wow.
right? So those are just some quick tips on why I think the space planning and how it helps you think strategically about what you're taking to the new home.
You know,
If
I've
that,
seen a change in some of the design in homes of late. So newer built homes have some changes that accommodate our lifestyles, one
Mhm.
of which is closet space.
Yes.
And that's very significant. So an older home, you're in an older home,
Hmm.
closet space is probably not what a newer home built this
Yeah.
year
My
would
closet's this
offer.
big.
Yeah.
It's not very big at all.
People just didn't wear a lot of clothes apparently, or buy a
Right.
lot of clothes back in the day.
Or they
Um,
used armoires. That's why armoires were
yep.
so popular.
Yes.
They
Yes.
used those big pieces of furniture. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We often are, when we are putting a home on the market, we have to define whether it's a bedroom or not. It used to be, and it's a myth out there, that a bedroom must have had a closet in it to be
Hmm.
considered a bedroom. That's
Right.
not true anymore. If the functional use of that room is that of a bedroom with an armoire, okay, it still
Okay.
can be a bedroom. It's interesting. But
Oh, so it has changed.
it has changed.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So,
I didn't
uh,
know that actually. To be honest, I did not know that.
well, and that became very pertinent when you're dealing with a home that was built in the early 1900s,
Hmm.
and they didn't have closets, or if they did, they were very, very small.
Right.
So, but
Yep.
it was a given that you're going to have an armoire back in those days.
Hmm.
So today we have massive walk-in closets, on the current design features of homes. So that's
Right.
one of the things that I find myself when I'm out there helping somebody transition from one home to the other. I'm looking over their shoulders and reminding them, okay, closet space,
Hmm.
where are you going to put those things, um, as a reminder?
No, it's funny you say that because I never put two and two together, but you're absolutely right. Because they used to rely on armoires to store all that's a huge storage space, an
Hmm.
armoire, right?
Hmm.
But now you're right. The builders are building larger closets. So we're not putting stuff in there. We're putting it in the closet. And then the next thing you know, you really don't need the armoire anymore, which might be, I mean, armoires, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent, armoires can be hard to find a new home for these days because everybody's getting
TV.
away from the big, large, heavy furniture.
Yeah, our TV is going in there.
Right. Right. Like people aren't doing that anymore, right?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's amazing how things shift, things change. And look at the prevalence of storage units.
Hmm.
I often will tell people, I say, if you want to move things out of your home, it's smart to have a storage unit temporarily
Hmm.
and put them there. And that also will help you decide what you really need, because if you store it and you don't miss it, perhaps it's time to give that away, you
That's
know.
right. That's
Uh,
exactly right.
so you mentioned that you do estate sales and things of that nature. Tell me about that journey and that experience with people.
Okay, sure. So we've been doing estate sales with our company here, Bluestar, for probably the past 11 to 12 months almost now, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And here's what I've learned from estate sales and just the general idea of an estate sale. Because sometimes I'll be working with a client and I'll say, well, estate sales is something that we do. And they'll immediately say, oh, I knew somebody who did an estate sale and they didn't make any money, right? They'll say it. And it was a bad experience. The client, my friend didn't make any money. And so I kept hearing that. But it took me it took me kind of seeing the estate sales, understanding what's offered at the estate sale, right? And then what's fetched at an estate sale, meaning what are people buying these days? What's
Right,
popular,
right.
right? Especially in the secondhand market. So this is what I've learned. If you say estate sales, it doesn't always mean, you can't think of it as I might make money. You might, but sometimes there's a good chance that you don't make money, that you just break even. But this is what I want to say about that. What I tell the client is, let's talk about this for a second. You're coming out of 3,000 square feet. Let's just keep the numbers round. You have
Mhm.
3,000 square feet right now, and you're going to 1,500, meaning you're leaving 1,500, half a house, right? Behind. Okay. That's a lot of content. So you can look at it this way, because if you have all that content left, it's got to go somewhere. So you might, if you didn't do the estate sale, then you're going to be paying somebody. You're either going to be doing it yourself and getting your friends and family and hoping that the pizza and beer thing still works. You know, when you ask your friends and family if you can come over and help with moving, right? Like, I mean, the pizza and beverage, but that doesn't really work. So you'll have all this content. So you can either pay thousands of dollars to have it removed, or you can have an estate sale. People go and buy all the content, they walk it out the door, and then the estate sale cleans everything out, right? And you don't spend any money. Is that, you follow, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So what I found is generally in an estate sale scenario, Tom Roberts, by the way, is our director of estate sales. So we have a move management division, which handles like all your downsizing and planning. And then for anything that needs to be sold, that's Tom Roberts, right? And he's amazing. He is a walking encyclopedia of all things secondhand. He's been doing it since he was 12 years old, and he's in his late 30s. So he's well versed. But what he does is come in to do a consultation, and he wants to see everything you're leaving behind. And then in his mind, he's kind of keeping a running tally of how much do I think we're going to fetch in this sale gross, right? And then he can tell you whether or not he thinks, well, and this is what I'll tell somebody. If we fetch in the neighborhood of $7,000 for the total sale, you're probably going to break even, right? If we fetch more than that, if we get into the $10,000 range where we fetch that much for the total sale, you're going to probably get some money back. Sometimes if you only fetch 5,000 in that sale, you might owe just a little bit, but it's certainly not thousands. It just might be in the hundreds. So that's kind of, I don't mean to downplay the estate sales, but it's kind of the reality of it. And you have to think of it in a different way. It's not about just monetizing everything and making money. It's about clearing out the house, getting ready for the next person, and just making it easier. I think that's
there
the
are
big
two flavors in my mind, anyway, of estate sales, that things that would be called estate sales. One is a formal auctioneer, you know, with a gavel, you know, and going to bidders. And then there's an estate sale where it's a yard sale.
right.
Advertise it, and you have people coming by. And just an anecdote, you know, there is the financial side of this, and sometimes it's important to get as much money out of the possessions as you can because it's needed.
Right.
On the other hand, there are times that can be a very unpleasant experience when, again, because of that memory connection, that familial connection to the possessions,
Yes.
and people are coming in. It's amazing on a yard sale anyway, how often people will drive up and they just didn't have as much cash suddenly as what the price is on that item.
Right.
You know, and they will say, oh, well, you accept this amount less than what the advertised price is. You know, it just, and that's a very, very unpleasant experience. So
Yes.
when we did this, we stopped it because of, it was just not our cup of tea, and we ended up giving it to charity, and which was much more satisfying to the soul,
Yes.
honestly, in doing that, because we knew it was going to somebody who would appreciate it and could use it. So just
And that's
just an
usually,
anecdote.
I actually love going to the estate sales. I mean, I really enjoy them, you know, because a lot of times when the people are walking around, I just went to one of ours last weekend. There's a lot of nostalgia, right?
Yes.
Sometimes you're seeing things that you remember from your childhood. So the buyers are looking around at your things and they remember this thermos. A guy saw a thermos and he was like, I remember this from when I went camping with my family in the 70s, right? But let me talk about estate sales. What I do love about a full-on estate sale where you have that in the house, and what that looks like is you will have moved on to your new home. So you will have taken everything that you want to keep and taken it to your new home. So we're just talking about what's left over. For the homes that are larger and they're going to be leaving a lot behind, an estate sale is a great way to go about purging what's left. Because it is sort of like I hate to say it's like a yard sale in the home, kind of like what you're saying, because everything does get a price.
Yeah.
But they can't negotiate. Everything does have a set price. On day one, if it's Friday, it's full price. Okay. And then on day 2, which is usually a Saturday, everything's half price. And that's just to get it moving and get it gone. Once everything's closed, what we do is we do turn everything that's left over to donations. So they'll come and get that. And there's a small.
I had a client once who was a daughter of, and the parents' father had passed. The mom was in Alzheimer's apartment. And so she was in charge and she had no money. So first thing she wanted to do was liquidate some of the possessions to get some cash. The father was a collector. Amazing. RC, anything RCA. And one possession that he had that she wanted to sell right away was this piano. I said, well, tell me about the piano. She says, well, I don't know. It says it's like 1861. I said, that's the year? I said, and she said, what's the brand? Well, Steinway. I said, wait a minute, time out. You're not selling that.
Right.
Said, please allow me to connect you with an appraiser. And we did, because an appraiser I wish we had known you back then. This was 3 or 4 years ago, honestly. Because then you could have appraised it and connected it to the right buyer. That is a very special, it was a mint condition, 1861 Steinway. And she just wanted to let it go to first person would offer cash for it. It's like, you can get a lot more.
I'm glad you're bringing that up, because I do turn to auction. Like, to your point, if it's high-end art or high-end furniture or high-end something, we actually usually do try to find different auctioneers built on, related to the value of that and where they're going to get the most exposure and the best dollar for that.
I think that's where people make a lot of mistakes, and that's where your value really comes to the forefront. Yeah, that's excellent. Excellent.
And I would always say too, before you do start downsizing and purging things, talk to a professional, because you would be so surprised what's really popular today. So for example, a lot of people are going to find their old Nike golf hats or old concert t-shirts. The rattier, the better. Like the young people,
worth money.
That's what they're looking for. And I mean it. That's what the young people are looking for. They're looking for vintage clothing, old stereo equipment from the 60s and 70s. It's people in my generation, right, that are looking for those things that strike that nostalgia, right? And so you just never know what's valuable in your home. You'd be shocked at what people are buying. So before you do start purging and donating, and if you're interested in trying to sell things, just have somebody take a look, which is something that we do complimentary. Tom Roberts, when I tell you he is a walking encyclopedia. He can tell you at a glance whether or not something is worth selling it or donating it.
Oh, that's amazing. Amazing. I love that ability to do that.
Yeah.
So is there a particular story in your experience that really jumps out at you as one that kind of just really delivered the value and the client was satisfied? Or?
Oh, sure. We actually just had one, and I hate to be so grim, but it just happened. And that's why it's so fresh in my mind. The client was moving to a community here in Charlotte, a CCRC, continuing care retirement community. Okay. It was going to be a new building. So the building was getting ready to open up and they were waiting on that. So maybe they've been planning now for several years, but in the past 3 to 4 months, unfortunately, I'm just going to call him Mr. Smith. It's not Smith, but I'm just going to call him Mr. Smith, was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer and he doesn't have much time.
Oh my gosh.
So he knew that he had, time was of the essence, and I hate to say his dying wish, but that's pretty much what it is, was to make sure that his wife was set up in the new home. And that had to actually happen much quicker than the original time frame, right? And I think that's sometimes a lot of people are very, if you have put a deposit or a reservation on a CCRC, you're on a wait list and they might call you and say, hey, this apartment's ready and it can be yours, but you'd have to move in 60 days, right?
Yeah, well.
So you do have to kind of move quickly. What was great was the support that he had, because a lot of times, and I know I'm the same way, I'm just going to go off tangent for a little bit and talk about my why. I'm from Columbus, Ohio, been down here since 1992. About a few years ago, my grandparents went through the downsizing process and I wasn't able to be there for them because I was down here. I was a mother of 2. I was in the thick of it. I was working. I just couldn't get there. And I know that's a lot of people's stories. Families are broken up. They're all over the place. So I love doing this because you're helping others in that predicament where they don't have the help that they
Yes.
need and they don't have the energy or it's just too much and too overwhelming to do themselves. So that is something that with the kind of planning that we have, the type of people that we have, we can move quickly. So in Mr. Smith's instance, we were able to get everything sorted out, figure out what they want to keep, what to do with the rest, get them moved, get the Mrs. Smith settled into her new home, and he feels at peace, right? So
Wonderful. Wonderful.
that's my latest story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we all have those special moments, and I think that's what we share in common is that we're able to help people.
Yes.
And that's
That's
what it boils
exactly
down
why I
to.
love what I do, because you can serve others,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Help them through a tough time.
So in serving others, what geographic areas do you compass? Where do you start and stop?
Yep. So we generally from the middle of Charlotte, like uptown Charlotte, we'll go on average about an hour and a half out to 2 hours. So
Okay.
we will go further out. Hope to see ourselves in Asheville again. We used to see ourselves in Asheville a lot, right? So I can't wait to get back up there. And then we'll go, like we've been to Hilton Head area. So we will travel. But on average, it's about an hour and a half radius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we share maybe the same sandbox, as I like to call it.
Mhm.
My primary area is Charlotte areas north. I don't do South Carolina in particular, but I have been asked to do. Some of my clients have asked me to represent them up in Flat Rock or
Okay.
Asheville or Hickory. And you know what? That is so much fun. That is so much
Yeah,
fun.
it is so much
You
fun.
know, I may not know every local restaurant, but I do know the ins and outs of real estate and what a good price is and how to get to that.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of pleasure being able to help people that far. And if I'm traveling like an hour
Mhm.
beyond, I use that time wisely. I listen to podcasts. How about
Right.
that? You know, so
Another way that I can help if it is outside. So for Bluestar Move Management, we have a location here in Charlotte and we also have a location in Fort Myers, Florida. So every now and then there's a job that's, going from Fort Myers to Charlotte or vice versa.
mm,
So obviously we can cover both ends. But if there's a job, for example, coming from California, let's just say, moving to Charlotte,
mhm.
we can help find a person like me out in California to help on that end and then line out the long distance move and then get them moved in here. So I could still help project manage from a distance if that helps.
So hopefully we've piqued people's interest in your
Mhm.
services. How do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to
Um,
engage your service?
yeah. So best phone number to call me, reach me by phone, right?
Mhm.
Phone or email, but my phone is 704-890-9980.
Yeah.
Or you can reach me at jnoch@bluestarmoving.com.
Okay. And we will have that posted on this podcast. So if you didn't write that down fast enough, folks, just stay tuned. It'll be right there.
Okay.
But any other points, top tips that you would like to leave before we wrap things up?
No, I think just and I will say this too, and it's not something, but a couple of things I always recommend. Before you start your downsizing, if you think you're moving, do contact your realtor first, because generally our services follow what the realtor suggests, right? So in terms of selling your home. So we're always talking to realtor, like, are we selling it with furniture in it, or do you want it cleared out? And then after that, when you start your downsizing, definitely consult with someone like myself who's experienced in what is, should you donate it? Should you sell it? Do you want to ship it? And just know that it can be done, and don't let your things. And I know that the sentimental, that's the other thing I just want to say, even in the sentimental, nobody in our group is ever telling you can't keep anything.
Right.
Those things are yours,
Right.
right? So I always like to say that. Don't think that we're just going to come in there and tell you you're supposed to get rid of things, but we don't. So give us a call. Happy to come out for a complimentary consultation to see how we can help you.
Well, it would be my great pleasure to be able to refer you to one of my clients because I know that you would do a trusted, just value-laden job on behalf of
Yeah.
my client. And
And
that's what
we
it's all
do,
about.
we have references and referrals, and check out our reviews on Google.
Yeah. Great. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. This has been most valuable. And folks, if you're listening to this, please reach out to Jennifer, Bluestar Move Management, if you need her services. And she will be more than happy to engage and have a consultation with you. And likewise, if I can help you determine what equity you have in your home, what are the first steps, perhaps in going from A to B in that process, before we even engage other services, that's an initial conversation I'd be delighted to have with you. So my contact information is also on here. Thank you for listening. Take care.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Carolina Senior Talk podcast. We hope you found today's episode both informative and helpful. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a review and share it with those who might benefit from our advice. If you or anyone you know is looking to buy, sell, or relocate to the Carolinas, or you simply want to know how much equity you have in your home, be sure to contact me at www.carolinaseniortalk.com. Until next time, we wish you the best on your senior living journey in the Carolinas. Take care. Thank you for listening once again, and talk to you soon.